Good morning. You may be seated. Shabbat Shalom. I am really glad I came to services today. I mean, I was going to come anyway, but I am really glad. Ami, your name is perfect, my people, and I am so proud to be a part of our people. This has just been a beautiful moment, and we've talked about how Shabbat Zachor is to remember the bad things, but today you've transformed Shabbat Zachor into something beautiful to remember. And that is really positive. I want to give a shout out to your friends too. Really, they're clearly very supportive of you, and you guys have a reputation of actually being a really nice group. And so good for you, and good for good taste in friends, and amazing taste in families. It's just beautiful to see everybody today. After Ami's Devar Torah, you're probably asking, well, what do we need a sermon for? He used a word like sovereignty. How many of you at your bar bat mitzvah use the word sovereignty in a sentence? How many of you could even really use it now quite as gracefully? So why is there a sermon? I can't give you a good answer, to be honest, but I wrote it, so here it is. So Purim is coming up, and Purim was the last time the entire community really got together 2 years ago. So it's really powerful that we're able to be together and to celebrate, and that we're going to be doing here. And I'd like to talk about one of the heroes of the Purim story, but also one of the villains. The most obvious hero is Queen Esther. And Esther's Hebrew name, or her given name, is Hadassah. And this is also the 110th anniversary of the organization Hadassah. It started in February of 1912 in New York, and it was before women could vote and before there was a state of Israel. And so it was dedicated to creating strong women leadership, and it was dedicated to the state of Israel. And of course, it created that magnificent hospital, Hadassah Hospital, which helps Israelis, Palestinians, Christians, Jews, Muslims, Druze. It's an unbelievably powerful hospital, but one of the most powerful things to me is there's now a team of Hadassah medical personnel in Poland and Ukraine, because unfortunately, Israel is uniquely qualified to help with mass casualty events. And so they're there setting up hospitals, they're advising people on how to handle these things. So it's very powerful that we have Hadassah, and that it's named after Queen Esther. So she's obviously a hero of the story, but someone who's considered to be a villain, who I think is really treated very poorly. And if she had been treated better, a lot of better things would have happened. And that's Queen Vashti. Queen Vashti is the first wife of King Achashverosh. Now, we often think of Achashverosh as being the sort of old guy with a beard. If you've ever been in a school Purim play, Achashverosh is the old guy with the beard. By the way, I was Queen Esther. And this is before cameras were invented. Maybe there's a cave painting picture somewhere, but if there's no picture, it didn't happen. And consider yourself lucky, none of you saw it, because it's something that you still can't unsee. I saw myself, I'm like, I don't think Achashverosh was an old guy. I was in a fraternity way back when. Achashverosh is a frat boy. There is no question. He belonged to Kappa Kappa Shushan. Too much eating, too much drinking, showing off in front of your friends for no reason, thinking you're all that and really smart, where in fact, you're an idiot. That's what Achashverosh is. And Achashverosh, even though he's the king, he still needs to show off to his 7 friends who are eunuchs. And they're not unique. A eunuch is when a bris goes horribly wrong. I had far more filters before COVID. I'm sorry. So he's showing off to people who don't care, can't care. And he tells Vashti, dance for me. And she says, no. That was the right answer. The right answer should be, I am not dancing in front of my drunken idiot husband and his unique friends. Because that's not what husbands should be asking wives to do. Vashti's answer of no and standing up to this indignity, this disrespect, was the right answer, but she committed the worst crime possible. She said no to a dude. And the king's advisor, I know. The king's advisor said, Queen Vashti has committed an offense not only against your majesty, but against all the officials, against all the peoples in all the provinces of King Ahasuerus. For the queen's behavior will make all wives despise their husbands like they needed help. As they reflect, the king Ahasuerus himself ordered Queen Vashti to be brought before him. And they sent out messages all over the kingdom that it's a violation of a wife to say no to her husband. Now, this is terrible in and of itself. And the idea that she said no and was completely disregarded, that by itself would have been enough. But her saying no and being demonized, and Ahasuerus's ego being indulged and his insecurities being celebrated, opens the door to Haman, opens the door to wickedness and evil. Because Haman says, Ahasuerus is a yutz. Yutz is the word you can use in services. And he can be manipulated because he cares more about his ego and his pride than he cares about doing the right thing, even for his own wife. And Haman says, I will be able to accomplish anything I want to do as long as I appeal to his ego and as long as I pay him off. If Ahasuerus had respected Vashti's dignity in the first place and hadn't asked her, we wouldn't have needed Queen Esther's courage in the first place. This is the story of Purim. Ahasuerus asked Vashti to do something. She said no. He said, you're right, let's have Hamantashen. Let me just say one word about Hamantashen. Goat cheese and sun-dried tomatoes. Delicious? Yes. Hamantashen? No. Stop it. It's prune. Maybe poppy seed. I digress. Sorry. I've got strong feelings. But again, it's a really short story. It's a much better story if she had been respected. There wouldn't have been this attack on the Jews. There wouldn't have been these threats. Ego and insecurity, when it's together, create something terrible, especially when money is involved. And we see this is happening around the world today. Haman is in power, right? If Haman it rhymes with Putin. It's not a perfect rhyme, and I hope he's not watching. Haman is Putin. Putin is Haman, inflicting evil on the world. But we have to make sure we're not Ahasuerus. that we're not the ones standing by while evil is happening because it's better for us financially, or because we don't really want to get involved, it's not really our problem, or whatever ego issues are involved. Haman is there because Achashverosh didn't do anything. As Ami talks about, the bystander versus the upstander. It's exactly what Ami was talking about. You can't congratulate yourself for not doing evil. That's still a bystander. Doing something about it, that's being the upstander that Ami talks about. And I don't know what the solution is for this, and we are not going to figure it out today. But we also have to think about, in our own homes, in our own families, who's Achashverosh? Who's Haman? Who's Vashti, who's not being taken seriously? Who's the one being belittled? Now, it might be you. By the way, Vashti can turn into Haman if they're ignored enough, if they're not taken seriously enough, if they're abused enough. Esther and Vashti are both heroes. Esther, for the obvious reasons that we celebrate, but Vashti because she was willing to stand up for herself when no one else would. When she committed the crime of saying no to someone who had power over her. And this is part of the things that we have to remember. We talk about Zachor as what Haman did to us, what Achashverosh did, what Amalek did to us, but it's only because we let it happen. We were the bystanders. We said, it's not our problem. And we say this in families. Oh, he's not so bad. Or, that only happens when he's angry or she's upset. That's not okay. If someone is in danger, if someone is saying no, we have to respect that and we have to stand up for them, even when maybe they cannot. Are we Achashverosh who doesn't care? Are we Haman who does harm? Or are we going to be Vashti and Esther who are going to stand up and do the right thing, even if it isn't easy to do? Judy Lutz wrote, "Throw off your mask, throw off your facade. I am with you to help you have the courage to be who you are. May you be like Esther and not be afraid to reveal who you are. May you be like Vashti and not be afraid to speak out. And may you defeat all your Hamans." Shabbat Shalom.